New season, new format, new franchise, new team. Hey, it's Matt, and welcome to the VDL Season 4 Draft Breakdown. I am so excited. After how much fun we had in the VDL last season, I am so incredibly thankful to have been invited back by Vortex and the mod team, which I am now a part of, for VDL Season 4, which is a low-tier Nat Dex Draft League. I just want to thank everyone involved. I'm so excited for the season. I cannot wait for it to start. I think my team is incredibly cool, and as always, a little bit of housekeeping before we keep going. So in this season of the VDL, we are doing a low-tiered Nat Dex Draft League, and what that means is we took all of the Pokemon from the traditional 19, 20, 21, 22 point tiering system, and we cut everything 13 points and above, which means 12 points is your highest tier. Now, of course, we looked at all of the Pokemon within the 13, 12, 11 points. We adjusted some, we banned some, we allowed some others. But what that means is Pokemon like Crocodile and Ribombee and Empoleon are going to be going first round, and that's what we're looking at. This allows for some really cool, intricate team building. It gives us some super cool mons that are going to be incredibly strong. And then we're not seeing these things like Qianpao or Dragapult or Ursaluna in this tier at all, which is going to be so cool. It's going to give us a really fresh perspective, and I am ecstatic to try this because some of my favorite Pokemon are good in low tier. Now, I know typically low tier drafts are meant for pretty much fun only. This is, and all draft leagues, especially showdown draft leagues, are just for fun. But after being knocked out in quarterfinals last season of Victini, and now being promoted to the Mew division, the highest division of the VDL, I am itching to have a good season, and that does start with a good draft. So I did tons of research. I made like 6 different spreadsheets. I went through every Pokemon available. I was part of the team that part of the team that decided what was banned and what wasn't banned and what tiering they should be. So I have a lot of intricate knowledge of this draft board, and there's a couple things I noticed, right? Like, of course, there's going to be an abundance of offensive fast flying types, and there's going to be a debundance, that's not a word, but there's not a lot of fairy types, not a lot of dragon types, not a lot of steel types, and something like a fire water grass core could be an incredible defensive or offensive core for any team. And then there's little details, right, where it's priority is going to be important because there's not a lot of strong priority users. Or strategies like Sticky Web or Trick Room become so much more viable. Even a Weather, where Pelipper and Torkoal are allowed, but not with their weather abilities, so you have to use Pokemon like Ninetales or Politoed. Or something like Mega Abomasnow, where I believe it's only 4 Megas we allowed, but there are Megas in this draft, which I think is super cool to bring that back, especially with ZA coming back soon. Now, before we get into what we drafted, there is something really special and really important we have to talk about. Being that this is a new format, I wanted to expand our New England Draft League franchise, and I wanted to make a dedicated low-tier team. So without further ado, I want to go this way. Without further ado, let me introduce to you, damn it, bam, the Boston Celebi. This will be our team this season. I think I'm going to keep Boston Celebi only to low-tier drafts for now. So New England Rock, do I have a thing in my hair, or is that just light? I have no idea. I'm going to keep New England Rock and Rolla as our main franchise, but this spin-off franchise, looking at the Celtics, we're allergic to Game 2 right now, but we're going to make it all the way through. I am so excited. I had so much fun making this team. I think the graphics are going to look fantastic this season. Either way, let's jump into what I picked. So something to note with this draft league is there's 16 coaches instead of 12 now, which is going to make picking things in a plan a lot more difficult. But as I said before, I did a lot of research, so I had a few full team plans. I don't typically do that when planning my drafts, but I really liked that in low tier because there's a lot of opportunities for things to get sniped, and I wanted to have backups. But I knew what I wanted first pick. I got pick 5 out of 16, which is pretty good. I can't really complain, but it's just one of those weird spots where it's not quite the wheel, but it's close enough to the wheel where you could make sure you grab some double picks, but it gives me a cool opportunity to talk to the coaches that are pick 1, 2, 3, and 4 and find out what they want to get, and I can adjust what I want to grab. So I spoke to them. I spoke to the coach in 2nd and 3rd and 4th, and none of them wanted Empoleon, which is what I wanted. I thought it was going to be one of the best bulky waters, There's very limited steel types, and Napoleon counteracts the good fairy types that are there. But the person that was picking first grabbed Napoleon, and I was devastated, but I knew that was going to happen. So we had to reset. I still wanted a bulky water, and I was looking at all the Pokemon on the 12 point here. There was still Ribombee, there was still Zygarde 10%, there was still Crocodile, both of the Nidos were still there. There was some actually I just named 4 ground types. There was some fantastic Pokemon there, but I saw it lower down picks that I thought were more valuable that did the same job. And something that I didn't see anything else doing with what I picked first. I wanted a bulky water that could also cover for grass types, because there are a lot of strong grass types floating around, and I wanted something that could just hit super hard without having to invest too much into it. So I was looking around, and I looked into the 9-point tier, and I saw this Pokemon, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, it can't get out of my head. Super cool strategy, and I'll jump right into it. The Boston Celebi's first overall pick of the VDL Season 4 is Araquanid. Okay, I know some people might question the Araquanid pick now, especially when things like Ribombee and Swampert and Blastoise were still around. Maybe better bulky waters, maybe better sticky web users, but I genuinely think Araquanid is such a slept-on Mon. And first off, get the elephant out of the room, I think it's a better sticky web setter than Ribombee. Ribombee is very strong, it's very fast, it's super powerful with its bug and fairy typing, but I think Araquanid just does more because it's able to stay around a little bit longer, and Ribombee gets trapped into running a Focus Sash almost every week, and I didn't want that on my team. Araquanid does so many things well for us. First off, it's typing in bug and water. Well, yes, it gives me a flying weakness, and there are a lot of flying type, but powerful flying type Pokemon floating around in this format. It gives me my bulky water in a way that beats fire types and water types and grass types. And things where Pokemon like Tapu Bulu and Iron Leaves are there, they're threatened out by Araquanid, which I think is huge to have a bulky water that's able to not resist grass type moves, but do damage back to them. Having a fire, water, grass core, in low tier especially, I think is crucial. Now, cores are talked about way too much. You don't need a core in anything as long as your team covers each other's defense as well. However, these type combinations like Fighting Psychic Dark, just the same thing, they do cover each other naturally, so having this core in low tier is fantastic. And what Araquanid does is it covers for all of them. Obviously, it covers water type because it's a water type itself. It can switch in, it can take physical or special water type attacks, no problem. Its water bubble ability allows it to check fire type more safely. Water bubble is nuts. It does 3 things. 1, prevents me from being burned, which is cool in itself. 2nd, it doubles my water type move attacks. I don't know how to say that right. But with like average offensive stats, but water bubble, my liquidations are hitting something like 140 base power. Or I didn't say that. 140 base attack, whatever. It's really strong. But what water bubble also does is it halves fire type moves used against me. So I can switch into fire types and take nothing. Plus, I don't like switching into grass types, but I am a bug type, so I'm able to click Leech Life and get a lot of health back, or I'm able to come into grass types and click stuff like Toxic because we are in Nat decks and everything gets Toxic. Or that's a safe way to set Sticky Webs. With 92 defense and 132 special defense, this thing is a wall. Now, I am reading a script, kind of, so I apologize if it looks like I'm looking down a little bit. I believe, what's its other ability? Is it Water Absorb? It might be. I don't remember. It's on the screen right now, but I'm not looking at that. Anyway, Araquanid definitely lacks when it comes to regenerating its health, of course. However, it does have a fantastic versatile move pool with things like Soak and Toxic to spread damage, Stockpile to raise its defense to special defense, Endure to survive attacks, Aqua Ring could be cheeky to help heal itself back up, and then more commonly things like Iron Defense to Reflect to be able to wall physical mons, Magic Hope to punish special attackers with my Master Special Defense stat, and of course Sticky Web, as we mentioned, to slow down the opposing grounded Pokemon when they switch in. And of course, offensively, still some cool coverage with Scald to throw burns around, Infestation to trap, Leech Life to regain health, Trailblaze if I want to get some speed. 42 base speed isn't going to give me much even with the Trailblaze, but it is interesting that it's there. And Araquanid just does so much, and I think it's super undervalued. I think it's going to be clutch for me this season, and I am sure that I cannot wait to use it. And I'm just going to come every single week, and it's going to be incredible. I'm so excited. Now, I also knew that I wanted what I wanted second pick. In all of my plans, I was like, okay, if this comes back to me, I have to get it. And I highly doubted that it would get back to me, but it looked like it was being overlooked. And it did come back to me. Speed in low tier is a necessity because there's an abundance of strong, fast flying types, and you kind of want to be a part of that. And I wanted my piece. Plus, I wanted to fill out this Fire Water Grass core, so I picked one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, Talonflame. Okay, again, if I apologize if it's clear that I'm reading the script, whatever. There's a lot of information I didn't want to forget any. This pick might have been like a little bit of a love letter to Talonflame, but Talonflame has been one of my favorite Pokemon since its release in Gen 6. I think it's one of the coolest early game. I think it is the coolest early game bird. I like it more than Staraptor. But Talonflame in Draft League is kind of a staple. It's in every Draft League, no matter the format. I'm going to think it can be fantastic in low tier. Now, this is super expensive at 11 points, and I believe I actually believe it's the most expensive Pokemon I drafted. I never even got a 12-point one. But clearly its bread and butter is its massive speed at 126 base stat. That is one of the fastest mons in Draft League, being able to smash out strong Brave Birds and Flare Blitzes with its fire and flying typing, hit U-turns at blistering fast speeds, and just kind of come in, check something, and switch out. I know its stats are lackluster, of course, and being at 11 points is a little high. It does have a really decent 78 HP, and a really good defensive typing in Fire and Flying, plus a fantastic defensive ability in Flame Body, burning the opponent 30% of the time if they make contact. Talonflame can really quickly become an incredibly strong utility mon, especially having access to some moves like Tailwind, our first hazard remover with Defog. It gets Bulk Up, it gets Sword Stance to boost its attack. It's a really fast Taunt and Will-O-Wisp user, which could be super helpful. It gets Roost, and it gets Toxic to stay around more because we are in Nat decks. I lost my spot. I found it. It even gets things like Feather Dance if I want to get cheeky. And then its other ability, Gale Wings, gives me an incredibly powerful priority user if I am at full HP. Gale Wing means any flying type move that Talonflame uses goes first, no matter what. It's super high in the priority bracket. I believe it's just +1, but whatever. If I'm at full health. Obviously, they nerfed it since Gen 6, however, I still think it's a very good ability. A downside to Talonflame is we'll almost always have to bring heavy-duty boots due to its 4 times weakness to Stealth Rock. And now, clearly, we have 2 Pokemon that are weak to Stealth Rock, so we will cover for that. Not just yet, but I promise you we will cover for that later in this draft. However, there was just one other Pokemon I was dying to use in this format, especially being Nat decks. And I was talking to some of the other coaches, and I did not trust that it was going to come back to me. So at our 3rd pick for 7 points, we grab Mega Ampharos. Mega Ampharos is like notoriously overlooked as a Mega Pokemon, but in this format with our team composition, I think it could do huge things in this league. For only 7 points, I mean, just like look at the stats. 90 HP, 105 defense, 110 special defense. That's unbelievable on its own. And then with the great typing of Electric and Dragon, where there are very few strong Dragon types in low tier, and of course this is not, that's not what Ampharos is known for. It's known for its 165 special attack, which is absolutely absurd. This is the strongest special attacker in the entire league, with moves like Thunderbolt and Dragon Pulse, plus Momentum and Volt Switch, and I didn't even have to bring a 4th move. I can end it there. But it does get things like Dazzling Gleam and Focus Blast for good coverage, Signal Beam for grass types that I can't hit well, Power Gem for ice types that threaten me, and even things like Meteor Beam and Charge Beam to raise my special attack if I want to get cheeky. Utility-wise, this mon is super strong too, with Cotton Guard and Curse to raise my defenses, Heal Bell to get rid of statuses, especially with Toxic being everywhere in Nat decks. Reflect and Light Screen, Thunder Wave. It also gets super strong support moves that I can run in a different set and a different EV spread every week, and my opponent will struggle against this mon every week because they're going to have no idea what set I'm going to bring. Now, its biggest downside is 45 base speed, which seems like a huge problem. However, with my team composition, I think it could actually be really beneficial. First of all, I love a strong, slow Volt Switcher U-turn. You saw me use Fortress in the VDL. I love a slow Volt Switch. So my opponent will have to bring a ground type or lightning rod Pokemon every week, and there are not a lot of great ground types floating around. But also at base 45 speed and Araquanid at 42, Trick Room is already getting terrifying for my opponent. On top of that, having Sticky Web with Araquanid or Agility on Ampharos itself means speed tiers are in my court, and I will get to I will get to control them every week, which can help get Ampharos even more kills this season. And I forgot to even mention its Mold Breaker ability, which ignores the opponent's abilities when doing damage, which is it's so strong. And in this league, not having to turn on Mega, we don't have to Mega turn 1. Having base static, static as ability as base Ampharos, it's really cool too. It can switch in on a physical attacker, and who knows, maybe I'll paralyze them. Teams are going to have to prep so hard for this Pokemon, and already having a resistance and an immunity to ground, and soon to be another resistance in the next pick, even just the first 3 fit well together. Now, obviously, as I mentioned before, we're still very hazard weak, especially Stealth Rock, so I need a consistent Rapid Spinner, plus I wanted to finish out my Fire, Water, Grass core. So for 7 points, we grab, 7 points again actually, we grab a super underrated Toedscool. Okay, I have my water now. I was getting parched. I'm still sick, guys. This sucks. Anyway, Toedscool is such a cool mon, and I think we picked it up with some great value at just the right time. Toedscool is one of the most reliable Rapid Spin users with 100 base speed, which is such a strong speed tier in low tier format with the super fast threats not being there. And alongside that, it gives us a grass type to fill out our Fire, Water, Grass core. A Rakuen and Talonflame Toedscool? That's scary, dude. Excuse me. With Bug, Ground, Flying also kind of being a little trio there, which I think is really cool. Excuse me. Why am I burping? That's so weird. Toedscool is Grass and Ground type, which means it gives us a really big immunity to electric types that Araquanid and Talonflame don't like, and it gives us a mon to threaten the rock types that my team hated right now. And it's one of the best Pokemon two-face rock types at that because it's Grass and Ground. This mon can be so versatile. It can be run defensively with its 80 HP and its huge 120 special defense stat. Now I have 2 Pokemon with 120 special defense. Special defense up plus 110 in what's it face? Ampharos. And with moves like Spore and Toxic and Leech Seed and Pain Split, plus both Spikes and Toxic Spikes, and even things like Screens and Trick Room, it's so powerful utility-wise. But it can also be run offensively, which I think I'm going to do just the same, with a ton of strong coverage moves like Flash Cannon for Ice types, Sludge Bomb and Hex, and Dazzling Gleam and Mirror Coat. I can guarantee that this mon could come every single week. Plus, of course, Giga Drain and Earth Power and Energy Ball for hitting stat. Now, its ability is definitely a downside. Mycelium Might, what it does is it lowers the priority of my status moves, which sucks. That's a bad ability. However, it does make my status moves ignore abilities, which means anything that has Magic Guard or Knuckle Stack's ability, whatever that is, means they are not actually immune to my status moves. I don't know what that means for Pokemon like Gliscor. No, yeah, it'll still heal. Either way. That isn't a benefit to it. It is still a downside to have it like that. However, Toedscool just brings an incredible amount of value and versatility to the squad, and I think it's going to be super overlooked and undervalued in this low tier format. Excuse me. Now, with full disclosure, I made a lot of changes in free agency or grace period. In round 5, I actually grabbed Dachshund. I don't have it anymore. I was using it as like a defensive fairy type, and I liked that it had wish passing potential. But in grace period, I found I was just missing a little bit of firepower. I wanted something a little more offensive. And with a few more changes later on that I'll mention, I made this team super powerful. I talked to a few people. I was thinking about changing some stuff, and I saw this one mon sitting there, and it shouldn't have been. It was untouched. This could have gone round 1. I think we undervalued this. This should have been a 12-point mon. We grab Gardevoir round 5. Gardevoir is one of the strongest mons in all of low tier, just based on its typing and stats alone. The Fairy Psychic type is unbelievably strong offensively, taking out some of the biggest threats in the league. And not to mention, it's one of the only fairy types, I guess not in Aztecs, but whatever. It's one of the few fairy types with Mystical Fire to take out or threaten out those steel types that this doesn't like to take normally. A huge 125 special attack stat. It's 125 special attack plus 165 in Mega Ampharos is crazy. That alone is super strong, but it has 68 HP and 115 special defense and a very strong speed tier at 80. It's so naturally bulky, and it has a speed tier at 80, but now with sticky webs and potentially even a stronger mon, it's going to be able to outspeed those base 100s and those base 115s under sticky web I believe 115 was about where it capped out, but that's crazy that I get to outspeed the speed tiers. This Mon becomes a massive threat, even more than it already is. I can run a thing with the Life Orb, with the Choice Scarf, I can run it defensively with Leftovers, I can run Wish Teleport, which is cool. And not to mention its ability Trace, which copies the opponent's ability every single time that it comes in. And Synchronize, which is less useful, but in a format where most of the Pokemon regain Toxic, it could be really helpful. Move pool wise, Gardevoir is really strong, and of course with Moonblast and Psychic or Psyshock as stab, it also gets things like Mystical Fire, like I said, Signal Beam and Thunderbolt for coverage. It also gets great supporting moveset with Wish and Healing Wish, Teleport to always move slower, Encore and Taunt, Heal Ball, plus all three of Toxic, Thunder Wave, and Will-O-Wisp. I don't know why this thing gets Will-O-Wisp, but it does. Gardevoir, it's just so cool. There's so many things I can do. Now, it's an expensive 10 points, but I'm totally okay with that. It's super, super strong. I haven't spent a lot of points yet, and I think it is really undervalued at the tier that it's at, so I had no problem at all adjusting my points to get it. So now, like I said, I made a lot of changes in Grace earlier. I didn't necessarily expect to, but I ended up doing so originally here. Originally here, I grabbed Lycanroc. Now, Lycanroc was cool. It was 110 speed, I think, 115 attack, something like that. I don't know. It was cool. It gave me a great priority user, gave me a Stealth Rock user. But it felt like I was just going to be running the same set each week, and it wasn't defensive enough. And it was a little too many points. I think it was something like 7 or 8, which wasn't bad, but I was always going to be running a Focus Sash or a Choice Band, and I never found myself running anything that outside of that standard set. So I knew I was comfortable switching out my Rock type for a different Rock type at lower points. So I was looking around, and I decided to jump down all the way to the 2-point tier. And I kind of wanted to pick up our first Terra Captain. So in this league, Terra Captains are 4 points or below, and you can only get 2, and they have to total to 6 points maximum. So you can get a 4-point and a 2-point, you can get 2 3-pointers, you can get a 1-point and a 4-point, anything in there, but you can't get a 4-point and a 3-point, and you can't get 2 4-points. So anything under that. So I was looking around, and I was like, there wasn't a lot there, but I saw a Pokemon that maybe it's a little cheeky, because technically a mascot pick, but it was sitting there at 2 points, and I thought this thing could be really powerful with Terra, so we pick up Boldore. Now, Boldore obviously doesn't look super strong immediately, but when I tell you this thing is going to be a tank, I mean it. This thing's going to be tank. It's a pure rock type with the sturdy ability, so it's always going to live no matter what, and pure rock is a great type to have in Draft League. Also, it has a couple other fun abilities like Weak Armor and Stand Force if I want to do a little more damage or get a little faster. Probably never running those, but it's cool to have them. But this one will pretty much come every week as a physical defensive wall. With 105 defense and 70 HP holding the Eviolite, this thing's defense is skyrocket. And it's sitting it's going to sit in on those physical attacking normal types, those physical attacking ice types, and it's just kind of going to sit there and be okay. It also has 105 attack with 20 base speed. So again, this is another scary Trick Room Mon, if that's how I want to run it this week. It's giving me some really cool speed tiers right now. My speed tiers are filling out lovely. Now, odds are I'm going to run the same set every week, something like Body Press, Stealth Rock, Rock Blast, and then something else, maybe like a Curse. And just to make sure I set up with those, that Eviolite and Sturdy, make sure I'm on the field as long as I can. But that's a really powerful set. And that also means I decided to make this our first Terra Captain. So I give it the Terra typings of Rock, Fighting, and Ghost. So I had to pick Rock because it had to be one of its original typing. I gave it the Fighting Terra type because I really like that idea of stab, body press. Plus that allows me to check the. What did that allow me to check? I wrote it down. It allows me to threaten those steel types that are going to be able to come in and beat Boulder. Now, that's not a lot of them, but it's great to have that cover. And then what Terra Ghost does is it not only allows me to block Rapid Spin, because this thing is pretty much going to be running Stealth Rock every week, but it also gives me Ghost-type Curse, which is actually kind of cool. If I really want to get permanent damage on something, and I'm okay with this thing going down, Curse could be really cool. Like, it's Boldore. You guys know what Boldore is. It's small Gigalith. And no, it doesn't look like it's going to be the best Mon, but I think it has its purpose, and it's only 2 points, and it's a really cool Terra Captain, and I cannot wait to use it. So at this point in the draft, I was really happy with where we were, and I was okay with jumping back up to get something a little bit more expensive again, because we still haven't spent a lot of points. We had less points spent than a lot of the other coaches so far. I was looking for another stealth rock user because I'm not going to bring boulder every week, and I didn't have a steel type yet, and I really wanted to fill out that Dragon Fairy steel core. Now, with that being said, the mon I picked I think is very good, but I'm a little hesitant. I don't know how to use it super well, and I'm hoping it can be really cool. But I jumped all the way back up to the 10-point tier, and we grabbed Bisharp. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna kind of go off script. Why not? Reading the script is annoying. Anyway, so if I'm a little less put together, I apologize. I wrote the script using voice to text, and I can't read it now. Okay, bam, Bisharp. Here's what it does. It's a steel dark type, which is very good typing. It gets access to knockoff. It gets some really cool coverage moves offensively with a 125 attack stat. It gets knockoff. It gets poison jab. It gets power up punch, which is kind of cool. It gets sucker punch, which is a very good priority move. And then, I mean, who knows? It gets things like dig. It gets things like low sweep. It gets revenge and reversal, which and payback, which is cool if I'm going to be slower than things. But really what it does is it gives me a fantastic defensive EVA-Lite user. 65 HP, 100 defense, 70 special defense. That is really, really strong with an EVA-Lite. It's only been able to EVA-Lite now since King Gamit's been here, which is really cool. Plus, EVA-Lite with 125 base attack is fantastic. But what it also does is it gives me a really cool speed tier in 70 that is going to fit so well into the team composition we have. Let's look at its abilities. 1, it has pressure, not very good, whatever, it's cool. 2, has inner focus, can't flinch, can't be intimidated. That's cool if I'm going against an intimidator, but its bread and butter is its Defiant ability. What Defiant does is this Pokemon's attack gets raised by 2 stages anytime one of its stages is lowered by a foe. So most commonly you see like an Intimidate user coming in on this, instead of losing 1 attack, I actually gain 1. I lose the attack, but then Defiant bumps it up 2, so I have +1 attack. And pairing that with like Sword Stance or more defensive moves, like that's a sucker punch that nothing's going to want to take. But what this also does is this is fantastic to scare away defoggers that want to get rid of my sticky webs. So Defiant, when someone uses defog and I switch in, or if I'm in anyway, my accuracy or my evasion will get lowered, but my attack will get heightened, which is super, super cool. And if I have things like Iron Head or Rockmore or just a +2 knockoff against these flying types that aren't going to want to take that, this thing is such a strong defog counter, and I have great hazard game already with every form of hazard now, and especially Toad School being super cool with spikes and toxic spikes. Hazards can be super strong on my team this season. Now, I don't like steel types that are weak to fairies. That's the Cobalion syndrome. Syndrome? I don't know. There's like a thing. Cobalion theory. If steel type doesn't resist fairy types, it's not a real steel type. However, I think I'm going to be able to cover for that well enough because there's not a lot of great fairy types, and I have probably one of the best fairy types, one of the best offensive fairy types in the league in Gardevoir on my team already. And this thing with sticky webs, dude, it's gonna get fast, it's gonna get really strong, and I'm gonna do some damage. Plus, it does get sword stance, right? It's a sword. Yeah, of course it does. Sword stance, iron defense, fantastic. EV-Lite special defensive, sword stance, iron defense, stealth rock, knockoff. Dude, no one's beating that set. That's such a cool mon. Bisharp is super cool. It's been one of my favorites since Gen 5 came out, and I am very excited to use it. I'm just hoping we use it well. So at this point, we had what? 14, I think it's 14 points left. And as I mentioned before, I lost my priority in Lycanroc, so I really wanted to fix that in Grace Period. I was going to originally pick Furfrou as a really good normal type. It's going to be a great Terra Captain, but I believe Tom picked that up. It might have been Tog, but I think it was Tom who picked that up, so I was like, I have to pivot a little bit, find a new normal type. I wanted something that was faster than Toedscool and slower than Talonflame. I wanted to fill that gap. Offensive normal types in low tier seem all the rage. I believe that it's like 14 out of the 16 teams have a really strong offensive normal type. Plus, I really wanted priority. And I was looking around and I saw this thing sitting at 5 points, and my heart called out to me a little bit, and we were bringing Pank Drank back from last season, and we grabbed Ambipom. I have a soft spot for Ambipom. If you guys watched last season, about halfway through the season, I picked this up, and it was clutch for me. It won me a couple games. It took a couple of huge kills out. It totally lost me the quarterfinals, but that's fine. We can ignore it. But Pink Drink is fantastic, and especially in Nat decks. So let's just look at stats real quick. 75 base HP is good. It has bad defensive, so you're never running this defensively. But what it does have is it has 100 base attack and 115 speed. That's a really good speed tier for low tier, and that's a really good attack stat for low tier. But what it has is it's two great ability. One, it has pickup. It's not good in competitive. But it has two fantastic abilities in Nat decks. One, it has Technician, which is typically what you see it running. Technician boosted Fake Out is so strong. I won't spoil anything. But my week 1 opponent has a Floatzel, and in my calculations, Fake Out does over half to this Floatzel with Technician, which is absurd. At 2 codes that, which is like, it's so strong and people sleep on it. But what's also cool about Ambipom and Nat decks is it has Skill Link and has Tail Slap back. So it has Skill Link, Tail Slap, which I believe is like essentially just 125 base power normal type move. Plus it has Bullet Seed and Triple Axle, and it has a bunch of coverage like Knockoff and U-Turn and Low Sweep. Plus it gets weirdly cool status moves. Like it gets Taunt, it gets Thunder Wave, it gets Switcheroo. Like there's some cool stuff that I can do with Ambipom. But it gets Acrobatics if I want to run normal jump Fake Out Last Resort. Like there's some really cool sets Ambipom can run, and I think it's going to be outstanding in low tier just because of how strong it is. Now you know I love my Focus Sash Ambipom, so I'll try to not bring that every week. But I am sure Pink Drink is going to come to literally every game because it can do so much for me in every single battle. So at this point, I believe we had 9 points to go. 9 points, and my team was lacking in the bulk department. I really wanted a strong physical defensive mon. I wanted something that could stop Rapid Spin. I wanted something that can beat these bulky normal types. And I wanted something else that can play with Trick Room, because I don't think I'm going to run Trick Room a lot, but I do like that option. When I was looking around, and I was okay with jumping high up again, but I did get something that was 8 points, which means our next Terra Captain, which will be our last pick, was only worth 1 point. So my Terra Captains are a little weak. However, I think it's worth it because we grabbed Cofagrigus. This mon is so bulky. 58 HP is not good, of course, but 105 special defense and 145 defense is incredible. That's the same special defense as Florges, and I love my Florges. Plus 95 special attack is really cool. So Cofagrigus, I mean, you guys know what it does. It's a bulky wall. Its ability Mummy is really cool. Any Pokemon that makes contact will have their ability change to Mummy. And what's great about that is like Swift Swim users will lose that, or Mold Breaker users will lose that, or Huge Power users will lose that. So this can, like if any Pokemon is reliant, any physical attacking Pokemon is reliant on their ability, this thing shuts that down immediately. Plus, it just has a huge physical defense stat anyway. And with moves like, I believe it gets Toxic Spikes. I don't think it gets Spikes. It doesn't. But anyway, Toxic and Trick Room and Will-O-Wisp and Calm Mind and Iron Defense, and it gets like Destiny Bond and Haze and Block. There's some, and Memento and Pain Split. Like this is a really cool mod. It's hard to get its health back. Pain Split is the best way to do that, so that is for sure a downside. However, that is we are in low tier. And for strong ghost types, this is one of the best. With Nightshade and Knockoff too, this is one of the strongest defensive walls, and it's going to be so hard to break every single week. I can't see me bringing this every week, but I can see this having a niche all of the time. Now, my team is very knockoff weak right now. I have this that's weak to knockoff. I have Bisharp and Boldore that don't want to lose their Eviolite if I'm bringing it. I have Araquanid and Talonflame that don't like losing their heavy duty boots. However, I'm okay with that because I think that's my team's only real weakness. And this thing has like 30 base speed, which is really cool for Trick Room. I like a Calm Mind set, like a defensive Calm Mind set in Trick Room. This thing does so much damage. Let me breathe for a minute, because we're at the last pick. So the only things I was missing from my team were a grounded Poison type, and I knew I was going to get them. Originally, I was playing around with the idea of getting Beedrill, but I think that was actually 2 points. Beedrill was cool, but I wasn't ever going to really do that. And I was looking around and I remembered something I had noted before I even started drafting my Pokemon. Can you guys tell that I'm getting tired? I'm still sick. This sucks. This is something I recognized before the draft even started as a mon that I think could be valuable. Again, I wasn't looking for anything super offensive down here because it wasn't going to be great. And I wanted to find another good Eviolite user just to kind of fit the theme. I want another thing from Gen 5, which could be cool. Like that's half my team at this point. And I was looking around and I saw Whirlipede, and I picked it up super quickly as my second Terra Captain. Now what Whirlipede does is, again, it's similar to Boldore, it's very defensive, but it actually has one less defense point than Bisharp, but 9 more special defense points than Bisharp, so it's almost just as bulky. Obviously a much worse HP stat with 40, but 99, I don't know why these stats are like this. 99 defense, 79 special defense with an Eviolite, that's like 150 defense, like 120 special defense. That's fantastic, and as a poison bug, which is an okay defensive typing, but I can make it a better defensive typing. This is such a strong mon, with moves like Infestation and Toxic and Sub and Rest, to just start damaging teams like horrendously. Both spikes and toxic spikes. It gets iron defense. It gets Endure, which is really cool. I'm just looking at it now. Endure, which is cool. Venom Drench, which is great to lower the attack, special attack, and speed of poison foes, which is fantastic. Plus, a great defensive ability in Poison Point. 30% chance of making contact with the poison Pokemon with Poison it. Now, it also gets Swarm, but it has, 55 attack and 40 special attack? I'm not bringing this thing offensively, ever. It does get Speed Boost, but I'm not bringing Speed Boost Whirlipede. Hey, who knows? I'm 0-7. Week 8, I'll bring Speed Boost Whirlipede and try to sweep with it. How cool would that be? But either way, this mon is it's defensive and it gives me hazards and infestation. But I did give it some really cool Terra types. So I gave it Terra Poison, which I had to be one of the 2 types, and I wanted to keep my grounded poison typing. I gave it Terra Steel. That was to check the rock types and the flying types that are going to really threaten this mon. And then I actually originally gave it Terra Fairy. I realized immediately how bad of a decision that was, so I've already changed it to Terra Water, which means I have 4 free agent transactions instead of 5 now. But that's okay. I'm not bringing this thing week 1, spoilers, so I'll have Terra Water for week 2 onward. I was always going to do that. But yeah, so Terra Water is great because now I have another way to check physical attacking water types, which I think is really cool. And I think Whirlipede could come 3-4 of these weeks because it just has so much utility and like strong defenses. So there you go, guys. That's my team. I am in love. I friggin' love this team. I think this team is so cool. It can do so much. Is it perfect? No. Speed tiers are a little strange. I think they're strong, but I am like missing something from the 80 to 100 and like 70 down to 40s. There's something there, but whatever. And I'm a little knockoff week. But outside of that, I think this team looks so much fun. In the description below, you will see that I linked the Mew power rankings that Vortex and Record Man did, so you can see where your Boston Celebi are ranked among the other teams in the league. And just generally, guys, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Battles should be coming out consistently every Sunday. We'll see if that actually happens, but I'm going to do my best. I will not hold you for much longer. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in week 1.